and gentlemen, and welcome back to my channel for another Hot Toys Secret Base figure preview video. Now today we're going to be taking a look at a completely wacky, out there and off the wall figure, being of course the Marvel Zombies zombified Deadpool. But before we do that, I want to quickly say a huge thank you to Ryan Kirkwood, who went out in person and snapped these awesome pictures. Show him some love down in the comments below, because without Ryan, this series literally isn't possible. Now, if you'd like to pre-order your very own zombie Deadpool, he is up right now with toyswonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. They do have 12-month installment plans now available if you're a fan of paying off your figures over time. Also, why not hit that subscribe and bell notification icon so you're notified as soon as brand new content goes live on the channel. Also check out the join button for Justin's Collection Plus to get early access to some videos, as well as a 5% off code for toyswonderland.com. Now, as I said, this was a completely out there figure that honestly I didn't think Hot Toys would ever do, but then again they are doing the Venomized line, and this kind of is along the same lines as that. It's of course the comic book series of Marvel Zombies. We've seen the Funko Pops, we've seen a couple of other pieces of merchandise, now we're getting an official Hot Toys zombie Deadpool. He comes with a bunch of interchangeable pieces, and you'll see even more on his actual body, on his person, in just a second, but a couple of different options for the eyes, all the way from regular Deadpool to slightly zombified to the ones that are on him, which are completely gnarly. You do of course have a swap out mouth plate, and I think this is Hot Toys at their best in terms of the gore and the detail. This thing is gonna look absolutely disgusting, in the best way, of course, and you'll see that in just a second. He does come with two Desert Eagles, both painted in red, and they look fantastic. I wouldn't be surprised if these were the same ones that we've gotten previously with the movie Deadpool. They look pretty much exactly the same, all the way down to the Picatinny rail on top of the barrel. They're pretty much identical, and they look really darn good. Super punchy, vibrant red. Now, I do believe there will be a couple of bits and pieces probably reused between this and the movie version, but again, we'll only find out when we get this guy in person. Yes, before you ask, I will absolutely be picking up pretty much everything that Hot Toys are doing going forward. In fact, I have been doing for the last 2 or 3 years now, so no need to ask me. I will absolutely be picking up this guy and showcasing him on the channel. Now, here we have the figure himself. The cool thing is, it's basically a Deadpool outfit that's been completely destroyed. Hot Toys have gone to town with the detailing and with the weathering. That knee, though, the actual outfit on the knee doesn't really read to me as torn, more so cut deliberately in that way, but who knows, when we get him in person, it may actually be a little bit more higher fidelity in terms of the rips and the tears, but you can see that glossiness on the bone and the blood. You'll see that a little bit more in just a second. A bunch of pouches on his leg there. They are nicely sculpted, not pleather, thank goodness, and I do think Hot Toys is going away from pleather and from rooted hair, two of, in my opinion, the most frustrating things with some of the early Hot Toys releases. Finally, they're going with proper sculpted pieces, even for leather belts, and hopefully for boots going forward as well. Now, you can see some sort of red veining and the zombified look in there, with the grey paleness of the skin looking absolutely gross, but perfect for a zombie version of Deadpool. It's still a little bit peculiar, to me at least, that we are getting a zombie Deadpool, because of course, Deadpool can't really die. I mean, he's tried a few times in the movies, but as far as I'm aware, as I said, he can't really perish, so how could he then become a zombie? I haven't really read the Marvel comics to do with Marvel Zombies, so let me know a little bit more about it in the comments below. One really cool thing about this figure is the backdrop, or it's not even really a backdrop, it's an interactive diorama style piece made out of foam and cardboard, and basically you can have Deadpool bursting through what looks like a comic book cover, which works really nicely, of course, for Deadpool. He very often in the comics and in the films and video games, pretty much any medium he's seen in, breaks the fourth wall, and this is kind of doing that. He's bursting out of a comic book cover. I love that. It's ingenious, it shows Hot Toys flexing their creative muscle, and I think, honestly, it's something that we're probably going to see even more throughout the course of this line. I'm expecting more zombified characters. Does that mean that potentially we'll be getting less movie figures because they're going to be focusing a little bit more on the comic book stuff? Honestly, I don't think so. We're probably going to get an even mix of comic book and movie inspired, and to me, that's perfectly fine. Now here we have the torso, and you can see the exposed ribs there. They're nasty and they're gnarly. His entire sort of understructure, the bones and the skin, for some reason it's all grey, and I guess that's just to show that it's rotting, dead, aged flesh and bone. As I said, I've said a couple of times, it's really gross, but for zombified Deadpool, it kind of does work. Honestly, if you'd told me a couple of years ago that Hot Toys eventually would be doing a zombie Deadpool, I would have pretty much laughed you out of the room. I would have thought that there's no way they're going to be making any zombie figures, any comic book style figures whatsoever. But here we have him, and I have to say, they've done a pretty darn good job. A lot of people are probably mad that they're actually going ahead and deviating from the movie line, but for me personally, if it's something like potentially this being a one-off, or every couple of releases we'll also get a zombified character, that works perfectly fine for me. I love the hands, I love how it's creepy and you can see the blood and the gore and the veins throughout the entire thing. Kind of looks like he's suffering from a bit of rigor mortis there, which again works really nicely for zombie Deadpool. There are gashes and creases and cracks and crevices and pretty much huge gaping holes throughout the entire outfit. This is one figure that has a vinyl/rubbery style outfit that I really couldn't care less if it gets damaged when you have him on display, because he's got holes throughout the entire thing. He's a zombie. It makes perfect sense. So finally we have a figure that pretty much you can put in any kind of crazy pose, and no matter what damage comes its way, it'll kind of make sense for the character. It's not very often that you can say that for a Hot Toys piece, but for this guy right here, you definitely can. Now here we have the head sculpt. You do have an arrow going through it, which is pretty darn awesome. You do have the eyes bulging and popping out. These are the orange ones, so if you remember from a little bit earlier in the video, you do have the basic ones, then the white, slightly zombified ones, and of course these orange ones as well, and you can mix and match the face plates between the two. This one looks like it's been completely torn away. You can see the flesh hanging down, the blood and the gore, and he's missing a couple of teeth as well, which of course, him being a zombie, it kind of does make sense. I love the onomatopoeia here, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, the comic book style words, the little swick of the arrow going through his head there, I love that. It just adds a certain something that works really nicely for this zombie Deadpool. He does also come with a few little friends. You've got a zombie version of Squirrel Deadpool, or Squirrel Pool. You've got a zombie version of Headpool, which you'll see in just a second, and also a cardboard version of zombie Dogpool, or Dog Deadpool. Honestly, these are really peculiar and odd, and something that I never thought I'd see in pretty much any scale, but they're here, and you can see how weaponized Squirrel Pool is. He's got his sword, he's got his ribs showing, he's got a little Deadpool-style mask. I've never understood the sort of weird little side characters that Deadpool often has with him. Again, let me know in the comments down below a little bit more about the backstory on these little dudes, because this guy looks fierce and ready to go to battle, but honestly, I know nothing about him other than he's a zombie squirrel in a Deadpool costume. It's really weird, wacky, and out there, and I guess it kind of works for Deadpool. If he was to have a little sidekick, a squirrel Deadpool zombie kind of, I guess, does make sense. Now here we have Headpool, who has a really wacky, crazy expression. You can see one eye is just straight up gone, the other one is popping out, his jaw is really wide open, and the little whirly bird on top of his head is definitely going. You can see it's got a blue translucent effect on there. It looks really weird, and honestly, the paint apps look a little bit flat. I would expect on the actual sort of skin tone over the skull itself for it to be a little bit more wet and a little bit more detailed when we get to final production. And that hole where the eye used to be, I would expect to be a little bit deeper. You can also see what looks like Howard the Duck version of Deadpool, Howard the Duck Pool. Honestly, it's getting a little bit crazy. There are so many little side characters that are either pictured or actually do come with this guy. It's just so out there and so crazy that, as I said a little bit earlier, I honestly wouldn't have believed that Hot Toys were ever gonna make this. That comic book art backdrop diorama piece, though, I really do love. And there, of course, we do have the Dead Dog Pool, or the Dog Deadpool. I'm getting a little bit creative with these names, but honestly, I don't know what they're called, and it's just a little bit peculiar that, as I said, he does come with a bunch of these little characters. You can see he does come with a regular Hot Toy style display base, but he does come included with the dynamic flight stand. So it's kind of showing you that they can do it. They don't necessarily have to give you those big honkin' bases that aren't really necessary in my opinion. These work perfectly fine, and I'm glad that he does come with the ability to be in the air. You can have him sort of flying through the air, shooting and slicing stuff with his weapons, or just walking on the base and not taking up a huge amount of room, because it's one of those nice, regular, rectangular style bases, which are my personal preference. Now, do let me know what you think about Zombie Deadpool here. He's all kinds of creepy and not something that I would have expected them to make, not something that I would have ever expected me wanting to pick up, but I'm kind of coming around to it. It's Hot Toys flexing their creative muscle, showing us something that, yes, is based off the comics, but putting their own spin on it, and doing it really darn well, in my personal opinion. Now, do let me know, as I said, what you think about this in the comments below. If you are looking to pick it up, he's going up for pre-order right now with ToysWonderland.com. Link for that is in the description below. Also, check out the link to 6 Scale Network, the awesome Facebook group. Come along, chat figures, share photos of your collection, and of course, see what's coming up next on the channel. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you in the next video.